Tonight on Campaign Countdown, we'll have an interview with an amazing young 17-year-old activist, news highlights from the final weeks of the campaign, and we'll close with the hilarious Jordan Klepper as he attends his final Trump rally. This is Campaign Countdown. Record. Okay. Well, folks, so glad to have you back for our very last issue, our last episode of Campaign Countdown. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce a young man who is, we've all have realized is just an amazing rock star. He's a young man who's gotten involved in politics now. And I just want to introduce you to Elijah. How are you doing, Elijah?
Hi, Steve. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes.
I'm doing amazing. I'm so thankful for this opportunity.
And tell the folks, can I get your full name? Can you tell the folks your full name and your age?
Yeah, I'm Elijah Diamond Ainscow. I'm 15, and I live up here in Bailey, Colorado. It's not that far off from you guys.
That's great. And you got very involved in working in a political campaign this year. Isn't that correct?
That is, yes. I started off this year worried about our future. And since then, I decided to take action on not just federal level, but on local levels and state levels. And I'm so thankful to do that.
That's fantastic. Now, I know you worked with Lori Boyson, HD60. I think that was the campaign you worked with, or at least the main one. Were you involved in other organizations, political organizations, or any other campaigns?
Yes, I've been involved in loads of campaigns. I'm currently involved with the 2020 Victory Colorado, and we're essentially a branch of the Biden campaign, the Hickenlooper campaign, and just general Democrats. I've gotten the great opportunity to work in Douglas County with Darian Wilson and Lisa Neal Graves, as well as Jiva Simplenathan, who's running for Parker Town Council. And I've had the great ability to work for Ike McCorkle, who's running in Colorado's 4th, Joe Neguse in Colorado's 2nd.
Wow.
And loads of organizations this year, not limited to, but including Colorado High Schools for Biden, where I've been the co-chair. High School Democrats of America, where I was previously the chair of Indigenous Peoples. And then Colorado High School Democrats, where I am currently the Diversity and Inclusion Director.
Wow, that's very impressive, man. And so you're now that we are 3 days away from the election, and you've been, all we can do at this point is get out the vote. We're not going to change anybody's mind at this game. But tell me your feelings, man. Is this something you're going to want to do again?
Yes, 100%. I, from a young age, have always felt that I needed to benefit my community, to help them feel represented. And I hope to continue doing that for years and years in many different forms.
Yeah.
I am 15. I'm not able to vote. I won't be able to vote till the next presidential election.
Okay.
I think it's important, though, that the younger generation has that voice and that we're able to say, hey, I'm here, and that means getting involved in these races.
Now, do you have you attracted or discovered other young people your age who have sort of the same level of interest and passion in actively being involved in politics?
Yeah, 100%. I am so lucky to have a great network and so many connections within Colorado and throughout the whole nation.
Yeah.
I work for the majority of the part. I work with young people. That's my job in many areas, and that's my colleagues' jobs. We are specifically trained, and we are young people, so we can connect with young people better. We can get them more involved. Of course, a lot of the time I work with younger people. They are activists who have, transitioned into campaign life. But it doesn't diminish. In fact, it only strengthens their ability and their passion.
And I know with the Boys State campaign, you and I worked together because I know you were doing things like graphic layout and everything else. I assume your activities with all these organizations are pretty diverse. So what do you, other than, send me a nicely laid out postcard every couple of months, just give me an idea of what other kind of tasks you do.
Yeah, well, I am primarily a field operative, so that means I am in charge of recruiting volunteers, training them in certain programs, whether that's BPB Connect, Through Talk, and working on technical glitches. I'm also in charge in one organization. I'm the chair of special projects. Well, we go through and we see what can we do to impassion young people in this community. This is Douglas County that I'm talking about. And we work together. I work together with a great team of about 8 other people to really strengthen our bond within our community and our candidates. And then primarily it was before, this close to the election, it was really let me have this discussion with you. Let me tell you why we need to be involved. But with young people, the why isn't really a question, it's a how. Young people are born into politics. And when I say this a lot, young people are the most politically inclined generation in the US. What I mean by that is, unlike past generations, my generation was born into politics, right? Sure. We didn't get a say so much in terms of climate change and gun violence reform, and really anything. Lots of young people pay taxes, and yet we don't have a voice, or we're not able to run, and we're not able to vote. Right. So when I say we were born into this, it's just like technology, right? Older generations weren't born into technology, but my generation was. It was everywhere, and it became a required part of our daily lifestyle. And that's kind of the realm of politics.
Yeah. Well, fantastic. And I think that brings us to a just sort of a natural way to end it with regards to messaging is let's just put it this way. You're staring out into the internet. We're 2 days away from election. You got, let's do it, 20 seconds. Tell us what we have to do at this point.
At this point, you need to get out the vote. You need to convince your uncles, your aunts, your cousins, every single person you meet on the street, ask them if they voted yet. Ask them if they're registered. If they're not, they can go to govotecolorado.gov. They can go to iwillvote.com. We need to be making sure that we push every single American citizen and every single eligible voter to actually getting out there and making their voice count this year.
Yeah, at this point, we are not going to change a lot of minds, but you're right. There are ballots sitting in people's houses unfilled out. Elijah, it's been a real pleasure to work with you. It's been an honor to know you. Let's please stay in touch. And I look forward to seeing you again. And I hope we have big, happy smiles on our faces on Wednesday morning.
Same here, Steve.
All right. Thank you, brother. Have a great day, okay? Thanks.
You too.
My home state of Georgia is absolutely in play this cycle, and you see Senator Harris heading back to Georgia in this final stretch to make the closing argument for that ticket there. But listen, I mean, the South has got something to say. Not only in Georgia, I think the Mississippi Senate race is something that people also should be looking at. Obviously, the South Carolina Senate race and what Jamie Harrison has been able to do. But I mean, that NBC Wall Street Journal poll, I just want to go back to that for a minute, Jonathan, because look at, some of those numbers, a 20-point gap with women, a almost 30-point gap with seniors. And what that reinforces is that the dual pandemics of coronavirus and systemic racism are absolutely on the ballot for these voters. And it is what is motivating them. We've got a story up on 19thnews.org right now about the idea that early voting was dominated by women, and the record turnout and record voter enthusiasm that Rachel mentioned is being driven by the women who are being impacted daily by the reality of the coronavirus in particular. I think that both of these candidates in the home stretch are leaving it all on the field. President Trump was blitzing Pennsylvania Joe Biden is blitzing the battleground states, frankly, in a way that we didn't necessarily see the candidate do 4 years ago. You had surrogates in places like Wisconsin and Michigan, but he is also showing up in those places and not really taking these poll numbers for granted. But President Trump is also, out here in these states. He's behind, but he's making the case and saying that there's a silent majority that the polls may be missing. But we're about to find out in just a couple of days.
All right, and we were just seeing some video there. Wasn't sure if that was live or if that was Memorex. But Kimberly, let me come to you because I want to show this Siena College poll out this morning of Vice President Biden leading in the battleground states. And we can see those numbers: Arizona, Florida, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, where all of Vice President Biden's leads are outside the margin of error, with the exception of Florida. As we take a look at those numbers there, Kimberly, your views 2 days before Election Day.
Yeah, what we are seeing here is a real narrowing of paths for Donald Trump in the Electoral College to eke out the kind of win that he was able to do in 2016. We say he pulled the inside straight
he'll wrap
in 2016. And so that's not happening as easily this time, as we saw Steve point out, that if he loses one of the Midwestern states or if he loses some of the other states in the South, even if he wins Florida, even if he wins Texas, it'll still be very difficult for him to make it to 270. So it's a lot different. One of the things that stands out to me, Jonathan, especially as we talk about efforts at voter suppression and efforts by Republicans, the playbook at this point is really to try to get as few votes counted as possible among these early voters as a strategy to win. Think about what has happened in places like North Carolina. Recall a voter ID law was struck down because it targeted, according to a court, black voters with, quote, surgical precision. And now, all of a sudden, North Carolina is a battleground, and we're seeing the difference there where Donald Trump narrowly pulled it out in 2016. Now you're seeing these voters actually being able to cast their votes. So the same thing is happening in a lot of these other states, including those in the South, that is making a difference. And I think that's something that folks need to understand after this election is done when it comes to putting policy on the books, that voter access and voting reform should be one of the top things on the list, because we're seeing the difference in how the changes in those laws are playing out in real time. And we're seeing the focus by Republicans in many of these states to turn it back in real time.
Hey, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on.
Some people who know nothing about me perceive my skin color as a threat. They interpret my passion as anger and hostility. Well, when I speak up in class, it's not because I'm the angry black girl. It's because I have an opinion.
For far too long, these black girls and women have been just numbers. I'm here to say never again for those girls too.
We need the freedom to be as radiant and powerful as we can be, but that can only happen if we feel safe in our own skin. Safe from racial profiling and safe from violence at the hands of the police. So our generation needs to vote in leaders that will address racial injustice head on. Know your issues, know your rights, and vote, because our lives depend on it.
Election Day is now 2 weeks away, but in more than half of the country, the election is already in full swing. More than 26 million people have already voted, either in person or by mail, an increase of more than 300% compared to this time 4 years ago. Early voting is popular here in Florida. In some cases, the wait to cast a ballot has been more than 3 hours.
I just thought, let me go and be one of the first people to vote and be able to celebrate that.
The line is this long now. You can only imagine what it's going to get to as the election gets closer.
With an almost even split in Florida between registered Republicans and Democrats, its 29 electoral votes are still very much in play. Both the Trump and Biden campaigns expect a close race in Florida, even with Democrats outpacing Republicans when it comes to mail-in ballots so far.
It's a reason to be excited, but not overconfident. Remember, Democrats saw this reality show 4 years ago. We didn't like the ending.
In Georgia, they're trying to avoid the voting line disasters that happened during the June primary. More than 1.5 million people have already voted there.
You, the voter, are turning out in record numbers.
While Joe Biden leads President Trump in most national polls, Republicans are touting registration gains in key battlegrounds like North Carolina and Pennsylvania. Nationwide, 1 in 10 eligible voters is between 18 and 23 years old. But typically, the most reliable voters are over the age of 65, or in the case of Julia Moreno, 106 years old, voting Monday in person in Fort Lauderdale.
How do you feel today doing this vote? Very happy she feels.
Wow, 106 years old, Kerry. That's something. You were speaking about Pennsylvania earlier. The Supreme Court just issued a key ruling on mail-in ballots there. What do you know about that?
Well, that's right, Hoda. First of all, Pennsylvania is a key state with 20 electoral votes, and the U.S. Supreme Court ruling that mail-in ballots in Pennsylvania that arrive up to 3 days after Election Day will still be counted, and Democrats believe that may give them the advantage. Hoda?
All right, Kerry in Miami for us. Kerry, thank you.
President Trump made a campaign swing through the Midwest yesterday, holding rallies with packed crowds in Michigan, Wisconsin, and Nebraska. Super spreader events all over the country. After President Trump,
do they have T-shirts?
Super spreaders? I'm sure.
Super spreader 2020.
I mean, he's a human super spreader. Look at this.
Maybe that's it. Maybe it's the human super spreader 2020 campaign tour. They have I survived the super spreader tour of 2020. You have a ventilator on the back.
Literally, unless you didn't.
That's
Which, it'd actually be a time of joking in this show right now if it wasn't so unbelievably true and not funny. He wrapped up his rally in Omaha, Nebraska last night. Hundreds of supporters were, though, left behind in nearly freezing temperatures.
Sounds like a rapture.
For hours with no transportation.
You've been left behind.
They were bussed in and then left there.
Oh, God.
Trump departed Omaha on Air Force One around 9 p.m.
So he flew out on his presidential jet.
Very comfortable in there with the
That's
refrigerator
awesome.
and people serving him up. And he could wash his
Big
hands
Macs.
50 times. After the rally,
KFC.
attendees began lining up for buses because they were bussed in, so they figured they'd be bussed out, right, to return to their cars.
A lot of
These
Mountain Dew.
supporters, many of them were elderly, waited for those
Not
buses
her.
to take them to distant parking lots as vehicles tried to navigate through airport traffic. Reports placed the outdoor temperature at 32 degrees, according to the Washington Post. By 10:30 p.m., there were still no buses in sight. Crowds didn't fully clear the rally until 12:30 a.m., 3.5 hours after the president departed. Great planning. NBC, super spreader planning. NBC News has obtained Omaha police dispatch calls from Broadcastify that describe at least 7 people being taken to the hospital due to severe temperatures. A political reporter for the Omaha World Herald posted these last night with the message, if you're waiting on someone who attended the Trump rally in Omaha, it may be a while until they get a bus to get out. Traffic along the small roadway to the private side of Eppley Airfield is packed up and buses were having trouble getting through. Nebraska State Senator Megan Hunt tweeted supporters of the president were brought in, but buses weren't able to get back to transport people out. It is freezing and snowy in Omaha tonight. What people will do for this con man, what people have sacrificed is so sad to me. He truly does not care about you.
The Atlantic's Ann Applebaum summed up the events this way, quote, Trump leaving his supporters stranded in the cold is a perfect metaphor for 2020.
There you go.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.
After an historic 227-year campaign, I found myself at another Trump rally, one of 3 he was having in Pennsylvania that very day. And while there was still some of the usual totally realistic expectations,
I'm calling 47 states for Trump.
At this rally, in the final week of election season, I noticed something different. It was quiet.
Are people just tired? You know, I think people are exhausted. Me too.
And I'm ready to move on.
I've been to a lot of Trump rallies before, and I have to say this is probably the most subdued rally I've been to. It's eerily quiet. You can hear a QAnon push notification ding in someone's pocket. This was a chance to hear Trump make his final case, and frankly, for MAGA country to do the same.
It's about the economy. He provided jobs. And when people are working and not out looting and burning cities.
Historically, this presidency has lost more jobs than any other.
That's not true.
It's not true.
Nope, he has not.
He has not.
Have you looked? Tony, I need my sheet. I'm going to give you facts. Come on.
Give me facts.
The facts, that fact sheet.
What's on the fact sheet?
I'm going to show you.
The fact sheet is that in my car.
We have not had a fact sheet before. This is good.
Oh, really? Okay.
Bring it.
I'm bringing it.
I hope it doesn't have a list of all the dead, because that thing's going to be huge.
Okay, jobs added, 4 million. Under Biden and Obama, negative 2.8
What is the
million.
website you're on?
I don't know.
You don't know. Well, I'll have to Google it. Okay, so her friend didn't have the facts, but she did have the Zinfandel.
Let's talk about African American communities and all the things he's done for that.
Great. What has he done?
With the, what's the jail thing? You know, where he was corrected the,
You gotta help me out here.
Tony, come here.
While I waited for Tony to get her shit together, I wanted to wrap my head around their Hail Mary October surprise. And that's Hunter Biden and his, well, I'll just let them explain it.
You can see on, Fox and One American News about the laptop, Hunter Biden's laptop, and then all the corruption taking money from the different countries, from Russia and China. Then Joe Biden would do whatever these countries needed.
Well, what did he do?
Well, either what he did or did not do.
What did he do?
Well, it's yet to be determined exactly what he did.
I saw pedophilia in China, something like that.
Do you believe it?
I don't know. That's something I have to look into a lot more.
We see about the Hunter Biden scandal.
What exactly happened with that?
I think they found a laptop that had emails.
Who did?
Who was it? FBI.
They found a laptop with emails and pictures of Biden talking with Ukraine and China about business deals and stuff like that. And
Which Biden?
Hunter Biden.
Then did something happen?
They want to push it to get it, get the investigation underway before the election.
Yeah.
But what's the investigation on?
About just the laptop and
just
seeing
what was on it.
What was on the laptop?
I mean, the conspiracy theorists would say that it's Joe Biden and Hunter Biden communicating with, outside countries on business deals and stuff like that.
Are you calling him a conspiracy theorist? That's just what he said.
Right.
The conspiracy, some people...
Only because it hasn't been proven yet.
Make a ton of money and do absolutely nothing except say, hey, you can meet my dad.
That's a disgusting trait, right? To just use your father's name to make money off of that?
Absolutely. Nepotism needs to be looked into big time.
Yes. What do you think about Ivanka?
Oh, she's so gracious.
I see Ivanka as someone who is following or creating and enhancing people's lives around jobs and training and whatever causes she has, just like Lady Diana had 20 years ago. She had certain causes, AIDS and different things like that she was involved in.
Was Lady Diana seeking
Yes.
copyrights in China while she had a position of power?
I don't know what you're talking about.
As the horn rang and the masses filed into the last rally, there was a bittersweet feeling in the air. Folks are heading on in. This is the last chance for them to get unfettered access to the President of the United States. After this, it might be through plexiglass, maybe with a telephone. If this somber attitude was a reflection of what could happen on Election Day, are these folks prepared for a world post-Trump? Trump could totally win. If for some chance he doesn't win, what happens to all of this afterwards?
Me personally,
Sure.
I will not live under a socialist government. And just look up the 3 red flags. On the Biden campaign poster, there's the 3 red lines.
Yeah.
Look it up on Google.
Well, I think it's an E.
It's supposed to be an E, but look at the 3 red flags or 3 red banners.
And they mean?
Communism.
He snuck communism right there on the flag?
You got it.
Really? You don't want to be in a place of socialized medicine?
Nope.
So where would you go?
I'm going to look at Costa Rica.
Costa Rica, which has universal health care.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to live under socialist rule. I don't think Biden's going to make the 4 years, and the Camelback, forget it.
The Camelback, who's that?
Kamala.
Oh, wow. That both mispronounced the name and xenophobic.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow, that's a twofer. If they don't take you in Costa Rica, I'm sure Argentina would welcome you and your point of view with open arms. So the pitches have been made and the escape routes planned. Nothing left to do other than vote your asses off and hope we get the results soon. Until then, I'll be hiding out right here. Good luck, America.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's our last campaign countdown, unless things go very well this Tuesday, in which case we'll be back next week. Thank you very much for being with us. Now get out there and vote.